Hey, welcome back to the WeMaple video show. Today we're here with Jessica Tsang, founder of Direct Health and healthcare professional, practitioner, which we're going to learn about, and also a mother. Welcome to the show, Jessica.
Thanks.
Thanks for coming on. What piqued your interest of why you wanted to come on the show?
Well, you asked. But you know what? In order to actually get out there and be able to provide services for people, we have to be able to market ourselves, make ourselves known, and especially the services that we provide are fairly unique. And I think it just requires us to get out there more often, talk to people, to make people aware of our brand.
Yeah, Direct Health, it was fantastic. I think I found it, Google, maybe 3 years ago, and I've been using your service for 3 years. It's been so excellent from a time-saving perspective to have a nurse practitioner. She comes here,
Yeah.
or to the home, and it's been awesome. What sort of other feedback do you get from your customers?
Well, I mean, that's primarily the feedback that we get is people run into issues with the healthcare system. They're either not able to get to their doctor's office. There's some type of barrier, whether it's physical, psychosocial, or emotional, I would say. Sometimes there's a challenge to get to the doctor's office. And the goal of Direct Health Solutions is to break down those barriers and make sure people still have access to excellent quality healthcare that's really personalized for them.
Yeah, and there's quite a backstory to how you started Direct Health, a very personal reason. Can you share that with us?
Absolutely. Well, I've been a nurse for many years. I've worked in ICU, I've worked in urgent care, as well as a variety of other fields. And about a year before I started the business, my grandmother became ill. So reversing back to talking about my grandmother, she was an immigrant. She didn't speak English well. And her thing that she always told us about was it was really important for her to be able to grow old in her own home. Her biggest fear was to move into a facility. But unfortunately, as she got older, her mobility started deteriorating and her memory started to go. And there came a point where it was just really challenging for us to even bring her to the doctor's office. My dad was a small business owner. And in order for him to actually bring my grandmother to the clinic, he had to close down his shop, drive to her house, convince her to go to the doctor's office. And a lot of times she resisted. And it's because of that fear. She had dementia. She didn't want people to find out. But eventually there came a time where my dad could no longer convince her to go to the doctor's office. She actually ran out of medications. And we begged her family physician. We called all these clinics and said, can you please renew my grandmother's medications? She's diabetic. She's been on these for years. This is all she needs. Can you just renew it? Nobody would. So some doctors told us that we should just call an ambulance and bring her to the emergency department for her prescription renewals. And that's what we did. But to bring uniformed men to the door with a stretcher to try to take my grandmother away to get her prescriptions renewed did not go well, right? So the fear came up, she started getting combative, and they said, do you want us to sedate your grandmother to bring her to the emergency department? And we're like, no. So the multiple people in the healthcare system basically told us that we just had to wait until she failed. And that was the words that they used. Wait until she fails, then they'll take her away. And unfortunately, that's what happened. My grandmother ran out of medications. My parents found her at the bottom of the stairs. She never saw our house again. And for our family, like culturally and just respectfully for our elders, that's not the way we wanted things to end for my grandmother. And I know that we're not the only family out there that experiences that. So for me, it's really personal to have this medical service that helps people out in these situations. We want to see people thrive. We want to see seniors age in place with their families. And we want to see people it's not just elderly people, right? It's the many people with chronic medical conditions, whether it's physical conditions, mental, developmental, congenital. There's so many people who have their own reasons for not being able to go to the doctor's office. And that's what we do, is we bring tailored medical services right to you in your house. And it's not just the physical action of coming to your house. We sit there for an hour. We have family conferences. We talk to you about what to expect when it comes to your medical condition. Like, it's the caring part that I think is lacking in sometimes when you go to some offices, you're a bit rushed. all of our appointments are a minimum of an hour long. So you get to sit there and like get an education about the condition that you have, how to prevent it from getting worse. Or sometimes when it comes to parents of a young child, we can actually sit there and talk about, okay, well, these are the things we should look for. This is why I'm not concerned. If this happens, you should call us back again because these are signs where we're getting a little bit concerned. And that's the thing that I think people need to have is a health professional who can give you that education and that reassurance and just watch to make sure that we're intervening at an appropriate time.
Wow, that's a touching story, and what an excellent opportunity for this solution that you bring to the marketplace, because the way in which you just described the nurse practitioner spending that extra time, I found out that I had undiagnosed ADHD just by default of getting to know my practitioner at Direct Health. And now that I know that I have ADHD, I don't take anything for it, but now that I know that I have it, I can observe myself in those behaviors and just have that level of awareness. And had I not had, 3 or 4 hours of relatedness with the practitioner, I would have never discovered that. So it's definitely personal, and the way you just described, like really caring, that was the immediate sense that I got from Shyla, is she really did genuinely care about my well-being. And it's now fantastic. Anytime I need a prescription refill, we can either hop on a quick call or touch base for a longer session. But I definitely got that sense. Like even now, to get a personal family doctor for your family is difficult to find a doctor. And then who wants to go sit in those waiting rooms and like the awkwardness and getting there. And Direct Health, getting that health direct to your home is fantastic. Thanks. I can't say enough about it. I've said it 10 times already. I'm such a fan.
Thanks.
And so with your business model, how do people find out about you primarily?
Often it's actually through Google. I've spent a lot of time working the website, SEO, but I've done a lot of public speaking. And to be honest, after I became a mother, I did wind back on that. COVID also happened. But now that we're kind of coming out of COVID, it's time for us to put ourselves out there again, start marketing, networking, etc.
Yeah, and do that in-house? Do you do your own SEO and run your own Google ads? Yeah, and keywords?
I do. And this is the year we're actually starting to recruit someone to help us with those activities. You can't do everything yourself, and that's the one thing that I learned about being an entrepreneur, is when you're starting off, things are tight. You kind of have to do everything yourself at the beginning, but as things expand, it's better to hire out to experts who can do it better and faster than you. Yeah.
And what does that look like for you? Have you ever worked with an external agency before? Are you thinking of hiring an employee to come on and do that, or what were your thoughts?
So I actually have hired, or I have recruited. I have contracted with external marketing professionals, and then this year I actually have onboarded my husband as my business development marketing person. So it's a full family business now.
Oh, fantastic. And how old are your kids, or how many kids do you have?
I have one. Her name's Isabel. We have jokingly, but not jokingly, labeled her as she's a chief motivational officer. It's funny. So she's been a core part of my business. When I say we have a family practice, we're a family practice. I was pregnant during my business. And so because we know our clients so well, they could clearly tell that I was pregnant. And again, this was before COVID. I used to bring her on with house calls. I used to bring her to my house calls. So I'd have my baby carrier in my little black bag, and I'd bring my baby to my house calls. And again, this was such a treat for my elderly patients. They loved it. In fact, they'd call and they'd say, my assistant Judy, she would say, "Oh, is it okay if Jessica brings Isabel?" which is my daughter's name. And they'd say, "Well, if Isabel wasn't available, we'd have to reschedule."
Nice.
So she's been a part of our Christmas card every year. So everyone knows of her. She's pretty much part of the business.
Oh, wow. And what does that mean, chief motivational officer? To keep you motivated?
She keeps us motivated, right?
Business? Yeah.
Yeah. So as a parent and an entrepreneur, we work to provide for our children, to provide the lifestyle, but also it's just to provide, I think, the values. It's the value system. She's come with me to see patients. So she's 4 now, and one of her favorite things to do is to play with her, like her little mini, like doctor's kit. So she has a mini stethoscope and little bag on her own, and she treats her little stuffies. And she's had friends come over, and she'll like listen to their hearts with her stethoscope. And I gave her a real stethoscope, so it's she has a real stethoscope.
We have one of those too. We got it at a yard sale, and it's like legit the heavy weighted metal.
Yeah.
The kids love it.
Exactly.
Yeah. How old is Isabel?
4.
Oh wow, fantastic! Yeah, my youngest, she just turned 5. My daughter. Yeah, what's that like balancing being an entrepreneur and being a parent at the same time? How do you manage your time?
It changes as your children age. So, back when she was a little baby, she'd just sleep and eat all the time. So, I do remember, actually my staff even remember, I would do training for the staff, and I'd have my baby in a little cardboard box under the table. So again, as an entrepreneur, I didn't get maternity leave. I gave birth on Thursday. I was working from home on Monday, and I was back in the office 2 weeks later. So my baby was with me. So she's totally a part of my business. So all my staff know her. They've seen her since she was an infant.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And so Judy, she runs like the admin, is that through email and phone? And then do you have other practitioners on your team as well?
Yep. So we have 4 other practitioners, and then we have 1 registered nurse.
Okay. And then how does that work from a business model perspective? Are all the practitioners employees, or are they paid consultants based on the time and their hours?
Yeah, basically. They're all contractors right now.
Yeah.
But this gives them the ability and the freedom to choose their own hours. They choose when they work, they choose when they don't want to work, and they have the right to decline, or it just gives them the freedom to design the practice that they want. Nurse practitioners, although it may be changing in Alberta, but we're not able to bill the government across Canada. And so that does limit us in terms of where we can work and how we can work. One of the reasons I built Direct Health Solutions is, yes, for client care, but the second part was to provide the ability for nurse practitioners to build their own practice. So Shyla, for example, she specializes in mental health. She does primary care, but her niche is mental health, ADHD diagnoses. And then mine is, I do primary care, but I have a special interest in older adults, palliative care, chronic pain management. And so because we have our special interests, with the structure of Direct Health, we can kind of design our own practice however we want, obviously following legals and legalities, ethics, and licensing. But I want to be able to provide people the freedom to take vacation if they want to, as long as they're still responsible and accountable for their own patient care. We can hand off patient care if someone is going away for a month, let's say. So we're supportive for one another. We can bounce ideas off of each other, but ultimately our practice is still our own practice, and we're responsible for ourselves.
And what is the scalability of the model? Do you see this something that would grow just here in Alberta, or would it be
goal? The goal has always been to expand. I would love to expand through Alberta first, and then across Canada, and possibly further than that. Who knows how far it can go? I do know that the style of care that we have is something that many people have told us they haven't really received before from other services. So I know it's there. I know it's valuable. Scalability is really it's human power to find staff who really want to build their own practice and design their own lives. And the whole thing about nurse practitioners, entrepreneurship, they don't go hand in hand. It's like a lot of healthcare professionals. A lot of us were educated to work in the system, work within the system, and become salaried employees. They don't teach us business skills. So that's the other thing that the Direct Health provides, is that we provide the business backing. You can focus on your actual practice. Yeah.
Have you started any, is cart before the horse, right? Do you, if you're looking at expanding into Edmonton, would you want to first identify the nurse practitioners, like have a kind of a set of resources there, and then find the customers, or test the market to find people and know that there's a market for it, and then found the practitioners?
Well, unfortunately, we've actually had a lot of requests in Edmonton. We've had requests from New Brunswick. So the demand is there. Right now, we actually just need to find the right people. The right people is actually always the hardest, because what I've learned over the years is that I'm not trying to duplicate myself. That's not my goal here. I want to find people who really want to build their own practice. But when it comes to in-home care, tailored services, you have to find the right person with the right mindset. And that mindset is always patient-centered. It's like the person comes first, and we have to always ask the patients what their values are, what their beliefs are, before we start trying to instill a plan, because you can't create the plan for somebody if you don't know what they want. And I think that's the thing that is a little bit challenging, because the way that we're educated is like symptoms, diagnosis, treatment plan. And what lacks sometimes is like, what does the patient want? We actually get a lot of patients who are not big fans of pharmaceutical medications, and that's a personal choice. But we can do the education and talk to them about, well, these are your options. You can choose to get a prescription, which we can provide for you. You can continue to monitor. If you choose this other route, like supplements and whatnot, we can kind of guide you through this as you go reach out to a holistic practitioner without judgment. And I think that's the thing that is not typical when it comes to healthcare providers. We're trained in the diagnosis, here's your prescription, see you in 3 months. And that's actually not how we provide care. We like to make things a little bit more personalized.
Fantastic. Yeah, last time I got a refill, I also had an inquiry. I thought I broke my finger, which ended up being broken.
Oh.
And they've it's just a tiny little bone in there. And it, like, of course, everyone, oh, you're fine, you'd be in way more pain. And it turns out that the whole time it was broken. And they said there's nothing they can do for that part of the broken finger.
Yeah.
Wake surfing.
Darn.
Yeah.
That must be recent. It's still bruised.
Yeah, they bruised right into the nail, and so it's got to grow its way through.
It's going to take a long time.
What are your thoughts on arthritis, or do you know anything in that space? She was saying that when you break a finger, you have a higher chance of arthritis.
Yeah, unfortunately. I mean, arthritis is literally the inflammation of a joint, and that occurs with wear and tear and injuries. If you've had an injury, basically the movement of the joint isn't as aligned as it used to be, which it just means that it can wear down a little bit faster. When it wears down, the bones start to rub, and then you get the inflammation. So, yeah, unfortunately.
So arthritis is just a form of inflammation. So if you can avoid and prevent inflammation, would that mean that you could avoid and prevent getting arthritis?
That's a very convoluted answer. There are treatments for arthritis. There's people with arthritis without symptoms. So a lot of it comes down to how often do you use the joint, so physical irritation or physical movement. There is a lot of research about whole body inflammation, which is why there's like a whole anti-inflammatory diet and lifestyle movement. But yes, so literally the words arthritis is the inflammation of the joint. Old school, like Latin. But yes, there are treatments for it. No treatment is 100% effective, but ultimately it's like, that's why I think people need a tailored plan. Is if you go online, you type in arthritis, it'll give you this like list of things, but it doesn't accommodate to the idea that where in your body is your arthritis? What type of activities do you like to do? Should you really stop doing these activities simply because you have arthritis in this joint, or because strength and mobility is a really important part of your body, and to reduce pain, maybe you should continue to do those activities with physiotherapy to make sure that they're guiding. It's like really convoluted, but yes, I love pain management, so that's why I'm like very interested.
Yeah, arthritis opened up a whole world of knowledge and interest. You definitely jumped on that one.
Yeah. Well, it's all about just having people with these quote unquote common conditions, and what they often get is, well, you have it, that's just too bad. And I'm like, but that's not the answer you want. That's the answer you get when you go for these like quick 5-minute consultations. Like, no, you need someone to like come and sit down with you, have a chat. Where else do you have arthritis? How does it affect your life? What kind of treatments should you pursue? And like there's a scale of types of treatments you can do, from topical rubs to herbs and supplements to like physical mobility and exercise to like splints to like braces. Braces are hard for a finger, but there's such a huge realm for it, and I think it's under addressed in the medical community, because it's true, we all have arthritis. Like, we all start getting it in our 20s, 30s, depending on how active you are. Most of us don't start getting symptoms until later, but I dislike when someone says, oh yeah, arthritis, it's just a part of aging. It's too bad. Like, that's not good enough. We need an answer, and we need a treatment plan. Yeah, it's my whole approach to everything, whether it's my like personal medical practice or just life and friends and whatever, is just making sure that you optimize your quality of life. So everything that compromises your quality of life, we really need to readjust, because that's what everybody wants, right? Everybody doesn't necessarily want a long life. They want a high quality life. And so how do we get you there? Good lifestyle, and lifestyle is also very broad, but getting your medical diagnoses early on so they can get treatments early on, and then reduce pain, improve function. It's all about that. Yeah.
What's your nutrition regimen? Do you have a specific type of diet, or do you do fasting, or what's your...
I think different things work for different people. Do I myself practice an excellent diet? Probably not. I do work out of my car most days. I think that it works. It depends on the person, right? And every body is different. Everybody tolerates different things. I mean, if you were to go to the studies and the research, plant-based diets are supposed to be one of the best types of diets. But not everyone can tolerate that, and not everyone does it well. So I do recommend, like I said before, I don't know if I said it on here or before when we're having a conversation, but it's like, if you want an expert regarding a topic, then hire the expert, right? And so for me, as a primary care provider, I like to orchestrate the experts, so I can tell you what I think you need and then direct you to the experts so that we can kind of go back and include that as part of the plan. I will not pretend like I'm a dietitian or a holistic nutritionist, but I do find value in all of the different interdisciplines. Yeah.
And what about on the spirituality side? Are you someone that meditates or manages your well-being in any particular way?
I don't meditate. I do find value in it. Mine is, I think I'm a very, very focused on mindset. So positive mindset, I think, is something that will shape your day. It will shape your life. It will shape your relationship with others. So it's just always keeping that in check. Is what is your outlook right now? What kind of vibes are you sending out? And what kind of vibes are you receiving? And so that's also when you're spending time with other people. What do they say? It's like you are, like, who you spend most of your time with is a reflection of yourself. And so these are things that we kind of have to keep in check, is how do I feel? Or if you hang out with someone regularly and you feel down and have a low energy after hanging out with them, you need to reassess and say, is this person good for me? Similarly, if you spend time with someone and like, they're like, man, I feel so good after this. Like, I feel happy. I feel like full of energy. You need more of that in your life. And I think that's what we all have to do. And we also have to keep it in ourselves of like, who am I to other people? Am I a positive person that gives high energy, good vibes, or am I the opposite? And so is it a spirituality thing? I'm like, I think it's a mindset thing for me. But other people, everyone uses a different resource. So some people need the spirituality. Some people need more of a structured type of religion and belief system. Whatever works for you. But ultimately, that's what we all need to send out, is more positive vibes in the world. I think it would just make the world a better place. Absolutely.
What do you do for media consumption? Are you someone that enjoys films or series, or consume any sort of like stand-up comedy, live music? Like, what do you do for you and your partner for entertainment?
All of it. I love, yeah, I do like a little bit of everything. It depends on my mood. I have a hard time focusing on things sometimes, so I actually constantly have background noise, whether it's music, podcasts, or TV shows. So while I'm working away, I'll always have something in the background, and it depends on how much attention I want to pay to my work or what's on the telly. So I do watch reality TV shows, fully admit it. But yes, I have a wide variety of what I enjoy listening to: podcasts, motivational podcasts. I love Jay Shetty, and sometimes in terms of like interests of like books and reading, I have a really strong interest in like autobiographies. I do like to learn about unfortunately tragedies in the world. And I think that when we have a stronger understanding of other people's perspectives, especially when people go through really hard times, reading those autobiographies or watching those movies gives us a different perspective of the world, and I think it really hones our appreciation and our gratitude when we can see or read how other people have suffered and survived or just suffered. I think there is a lot of value in understanding human suffering and seeing different perspectives of lives that you have not led. And that, I think, makes us more compassionate and empathetic people.
That's interesting about the suffering, because there's so many different forms of that for different people. The idea of what it is like to suffer. Some people have never suffered, and some people have suffered like a tremendous amount of, or you mentioned empathy was like, when you sometimes hear about someone else's suffering, like you can feel it in such a visceral way. Is there anything in particular that stood out to you as a story in that, like, that you heard or that you were researching or something that was like really profound?
I mean, I think I'm an empath, so everything makes me feel really strongly. I mean, obviously right now with, Israel, Gaza, the Ukraine, a lot of those things are very visceral for me. So I do actually spend a lot of time reading the news. It's important for us as human beings to know what's going on in the world, to understand that there's a lot of suffering that goes on all the time, and suffering that doesn't even make it to the news. So the reason why I think it's so important for us to watch it and see it and feel the pain and the suffering, because we have to be aware that's what some people's lives are like. And it's not fair for us to kind of, walk on by with our coffee and look down on other people when we have no idea what they've gone through. I think it's important that we are grateful for everything that we have, for being able to drink a clean cup of water, to have access to air that's of good quality. We have to find gratitude in everything. And I think this kind of brings us back to the whole positive mindset is, I don't think you can have a positive mindset if you're not aware of suffering and the negativities that could occur. We have to find gratitude every day to feel positive and to be positive. And without that awareness of all the different perspectives that could be out there, I think that's not doing our world justice. We need to build more empathy, and we need to build more gratitude and positivity to overcome and maybe help people out of this suffering if we can. Hopefully that made sense.
Yeah, no, that was excellent. Where can people find you, Jessica?
In Calgary. I do have social media. My Instagram, I'll probably just give it to you. You can post it. But yeah, Instagram. I am on TikTok as well. Not that I post there regularly. My TikTok account is a lot of stories that I've helped my patients through. So if you are trying to build some empathy, I have a TikTok account that's actually tailored for that. Otherwise you can just follow me on social media.
Wow, cool. It sounds like you've really carved a niche around that, the way that you're doing your TikToks. I haven't checked them out. Has that resulted in any clients? Has your social media, have you been able to tie
Not yet.
No?
It was a passion project. I'm admittedly not consistent with it. I know I need to get on that. Yeah, and I think that's the thing when you're an entrepreneur, you're trying to focus on so many things at once. The number one thing for me is making sure that my patients and all of our clients are well cared for. And so sometimes, yes, social media kind of goes on the back burner. And then once in a while, I'm like, oh yeah, I guess I should post a video. So yeah, patients always come first, clients always come first, staff then like also come in one of the firsts. And then afterwards, I guess the social media thing, I need to get back on that.
Well, we'll do a follow-up and keep you accountable on that.
Okay, sounds good.
Anything else you'd like to share today?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, cool. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah.